Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Warrior Woman podcast. Listen, I am excited on today because we have such an amazing woman who is going to be joining and gracing the stage today. And so, if this is your first time tuning in to the Warrior Woman podcast, welcome. I am your host, Ayana Henderson. I am an emotional healing and wellness coach and started the podcast. It was formerly the Warrior Wisdom Wednesday, in which I would come on and just share some, wisdom that had been imparted on me. But I thought, it might be helpful to hear it from other women about what their journey was like and soul care and healing and grieving and doing all the things that we need to do to become better. So, what is soul care exactly, right? Soul care is where we peel back the layers of your emotional trauma and we work to heal those emotional wounds. So think of it like this: soul care is like the surgery that you need to repair and heal an emotional wound. So, like, the surgeons, they have to get in there, they have to open you up, and then they have to clean out whatever is in there so that they can heal it and then seal it, right? And then I consider self care more like the maintenance plan after soul care. So, soul care allows you to dig deep. Figure out why you're dealing with rejection, maybe why you're so easily offended. Perhaps like you're dealing with some relational issues. You're realizing that you don't really trust people like that. And you really want to deal with that once and for all because you desire to have close and intimate relationships where you feel like you can be yourself 100% of the time. Or perhaps you are a parent, a mom, and you want to have a better relationship with your kids. And so you're recognizing that there are some things in you that are causing friction between you and your children, and you desire to show up better. Or even in your career, you're not achieving the level of success that you want. And 9 times out of 10, what I found, having worked in the HR field for over 10 years, is that women desire three things. One, they want to feel authentic in who they are. Two, they want the autonomy to be themselves. And three, they want to show up with their complete and total authority without seeming aggressive or really having to become angry in order to assert themselves. And so, that just translates over into there's probably some things within you that actually need to be healed. And so, this is what the podcast is all about. We bring on women who are ready, willing, and vulnerable enough and transparent enough to share their journeys. So today, we are talking with Miss Ashlin Price, and I am so excited. So excited. So Ashlin is a sought after speaker and financial literacy consultant who specializes in providing financial literacy, addressing behaviors related to finances, and professional development. She is the owner of Financial Freedom Enterprises, LLC, a financial consultant company that provides services to communities and organizations in need of financial education and strategic planning to improve their professional and personal finances. Welcome to the stage, sis. So happy to have you. Let me
Hi,
take my little banner
Ayana.
down. Yes, ma'am. Welcome.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you today?
All is well on my end. I am so excited to be here. Thank you for allowing me to share this
Of course.
platform for you. Thank you for allowing me to be here and just have the conversation.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So, like always, we're just going to get right into it. And the first question that I ask all the guests that come up to the stage and grace the stage is, what does soul care mean to you and how would you define it? Because I feel like it's different for a lot of people. And so it's always interesting to hear the unique perspectives. So, what do you think it is?
Yeah, so soul care means to me is the inner work. It is the mind, the spirit of the person, using those resources, the services, the community events to build your spirit, to build your soul, to build your mind, to build the inner parts of who you are. So things that I do to enjoy or to build my soul: meditation, prayer, journaling, listening to music. Water is really calming, really calming for me. So it's a priority of the mind and the spirit is what soul care means to me. And I define it in a place of just really tapping into the inner parts of you and doing the work, using the resources, the journaling, the meditation, the prayer, um, listening to music. Those are the things that I like to do when talking about feeding my soul, feeding my spirit, rejuvenating who I am.
Listen, see, because I knew there was a reason why we connected. I knew there was a reason why we connected because you was listing that list, and I was like, that sounds like my list. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying? And then you got
Mm-hmm.
the water, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, okay. That's why we connected. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's used to
Yeah.
maintain your emotional state. Used to maintain your spiritual wellness of who you are.
Right, 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 right. And so I think sometimes too, people don't um take for granted the small things in their life that actually can help them reset their soul. So I'm so glad that you shared your list of the things that you do to actually help you sort of get into the space of one sort of toning in and tuning in to your soul and what's needed at that time. And these are the tools and techniques. So I want you guys to make sure that you are taking note of, just some of the things that she has listed, like the meditation, the journaling, prayer, listening to music, getting around water. What are those things for you that will help you sort of tap into what you need during those moments and during those times where you absolutely know that you need a reset
Yeah,
within you to be able to keep going.
yeah,
So
yeah.
Ashley and I met. I was doing an anthology project called Good Grief, and she was going to sign up to be a co-author. And during our call, like I had maybe 6 or 7 people that was supposed to be joining that author interest call, and it turned out just to be Ashlyn. And we had a whole session. You
We
hear me?
we
A
did.
whole session. Like
We
I
did.
shared about the book, but then we were on for maybe like what, maybe an hour after the
Yeah,
after
yeah,
the call, after the
yeah,
presentation. We done prayed. We done, oh man, we
yeah,
done to the throne, all of it, all of
yeah.
it, all of it, all of it. But the thing that I love so much about when we connected that day is we had shared a lot about our journey around grief.
Mm-hmm.
And for soul care, a lot of people don't realize that grieving, I call it people, places, and pain, are essential to your soul care journey, right? Sometimes you have to grieve, the loss of a person, because the premise of the reason why I did that Good Grief project was because I lost both my parents within 15 months of each other. And
Mm-hmm.
I found the goodness of God through and through. It was undeniable how God showed up and showed out for me. And I felt like an orphan at 40 years old. I felt like I was 6.
Yep.
And I was like, Jesus, this is not normal. And so, God had just been good. And then there were parts of me that I actually had to grieve because I didn't realize that there were goals and expectations and standards that I had set myself. And because my life went in the direction that it went, I didn't attain certain things. And I had
Mm-hmm.
to actually grieve that because I recognized that God couldn't do and He couldn't bless me with the things that He's called me to do because I was holding on to a version of me that would never come to fruition. What was you going to say?
Listen,
I
listen.
saw playing.
That thing right there about releasing so you can be the best version of you, that is hard work right there.
That
And
is
that is actually intentional work. Like you really have to make like you have to surrender to the process. Like either way, it's going to happen whether you surrender to it and be like, all right, I'm just going to go through the process and grieve and mourn, whatever, or it's going to drag you along.
right.
I didn't want to be dragged.
You see
I,
what I'm saying?
I didn't want to be dragged. The grieving process is hard enough.
Right.
And I didn't want to be dragged and extended for so long because I knew my story, I knew my testimony wasn't for me.
That part.
It was for someone else to heal. So I knew
Right.
that I had to step into this thing and I had to be intentional with my thoughts, with my feelings, with my emotions, and I had to be aligned. So I'll be able to teach and help heal and groom and support other women through this process. So yeah.
Right.
Hmm.
Listen, I'm telling you, when God hit me with that, he was like, I can't do anything with you because you're still holding on to versions of yourself that you thought you would become. And I'm telling you that you're not going to become that because I have a different plan for you. So you're
Hmm.
either going to accept my plan and let go of who you think you're supposed to be and become who I designed you to be, or we can hit the struggle bus. And
Yep.
I was just like, you, first of all, God, you don't have to yell at me like that. Like, you could have just whispered that, you know what I'm saying? That still quiet whisper that comes in, you know what I'm saying? You could have said the Holy Spirit, and he could have like, and God was like, nah, I needed you to hear it from me. Like, I
Yeah.
need you to hear it plain as day. You know,
Yeah.
I feel like I feel like it play out like this. I feel like, you know what I'm saying, you get the Holy Spirit and the Holy Spirit be like, nah, sis, like, don't do that because you know
Mm-mm.
that's not gonna work for you. You know what I'm saying? And then Jesus be like, you know better. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know better because you said you
Right.
was gonna follow me, like you know better. And
Hmm.
then I feel like when it gets to God, when it gets to dad, it's like, I told you. Okay, this is why I can't do nothing with you because you over here doing it yourself. You
You
want to be
hard
you
headed.
wanna be God. You know what I'm
You
saying?
hard headed. You don't listen
Right.
to what I say, and then you want
That's
to do
how I
it
feel like
yourself.
it. I mean, like that's why I'm like, God, you could have just sent the Holy Spirit. You know what I'm saying? Like,
No.
you know what I'm saying? You have to do me like that. You have to do me like that. But
Yeah.
that, you know, it's the truth. Like it's people, places, and pain. The places
Yeah.
are um like experiences that you've had,
Hmm.
but you've experienced them at a place, right? Your cousin's house, your daddy house, your mama house, you're at
Yeah.
work. You know,
Yeah.
these are all the places where you feel like every time I encounter this particular area, this particular place, this location, I feel some type of way in my spirit.
Hmm.
And you have to grieve those things, you know, like those jobs that you were let go from. And you like, I ain't never going back. You know what I'm saying? Every time you cross foot past, you know, you drive past the
Yeah.
building, you got something nasty to say, and you know, you might
Yeah.
whisper it in your spirit. You got to grieve that because you got to be able
Mm.
to let those things go. And then the
Yeah.
pain, right? Everything that you felt as a result of something someone said to you, spoke over you, hinted
Yeah.
at, a story
Yeah.
you told yourself that convinced you that you're not enough, that you're not
Yeah.
worthy, that you're not,
Yeah.
you know, X, Y, and Z. So you have to
Mhm.
grieve that. For me, it's those three things: people, places, and pain. They're
Mm.
always going to show up as a root cause of why you won't get into a relationship, why you can't get in that career, why you haven't elevated, why you haven't accelerated in your life and in your passion and in your purpose, why you
Yeah.
probably haven't even touched your purpose. Is because God
Yeah.
is not going to put you before people. He's not going to, he has the sheep, but he's like, I'm not going to give you the sheep if you're just going to kill them dead.
Yeah. No.
Do
Mm-mm.
that. Why
There's
would
no
I give
prosperity.
you? Right.
Mm-mm.
He said, I can't give you abundance. Your character's not even ready for abundance.
No, because if I give it to you now, you're going to sabotage it. And then you're going to say, what? I knew this wasn't going to work. I knew that
Right.
wasn't going to work. I knew this was not for me. And
Right.
really,
And then go ahead and be like, oh, well, that wasn't God. I promise you it was. I promise you it was.
that's
Because
what
he
we
needed
always
you to do
say.
that so he could get your character together to show you
Ayana, that's
like
what
this
we
is
say.
why. You
God
see?
would never. So, and sometimes, believe it or not,
Right.
sometimes that's God. Like sometimes it is God that make us uncomfortable,
That
that put us
part.
in those shaky situations.
I
Sometimes
promise
it
you.
is God.
I'll
So,
say it just like this. When I share the story about like my mother passing, and I had the whole why God question, like, why God?
mhm,
Why would you allow her to go this way, like
yeah.
this? You know, why would you allow me? I had to watch my mom pass away on FaceTime. I couldn't be in the hospital with her because I too had COVID. And
Oh,
so I couldn't go to the hospital and she didn't
okay.
survive it. And so my brother had to FaceTime me and I had to watch her pass away on the phone. That was as
Mm,
close as I could get. So I had the two why gods. Why did you take her? And why couldn't I be there? And here
yeah.
were the two answers that he gave me. He said, I took her because you weren't going to become the woman I called you to be. You were going to remain her daughter and you were going to sit and you were going to serve her. And I've called you to be more than that. And because I saw the only way that I could get you to step into the fullness of who I've called you to be, I had to take her.
Mm,
And I was like, huh,
mm.
okay.
Okay.
And then I said, why did I have to watch her pass away on the phone? He said, because if you were there physically, it would have wrecked you. This
Yeah.
phone gave you space and grace because you knew you couldn't react. It didn't have the same emotional impact that it would have had if you were there in person.
Yeah.
And he gave me a vision, and it was like I was falling out on the floor. Like it was just hysterics,
Mm.
absolute and complete hysterics, trying to like wake her up and really coming back to like being 6, 7, 8 years old, like mommy, 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 mommy. And he was like, and that I don't know if I could have pulled you from that.
Mm.
And so
Yeah.
that's why I created that space, so that you could accept that this was happening, but I could still have your heart and you could still be with me.
Wow.
And I was like, good Lord, God.
Wow.
Oh,
Wow.
it was one of those like, thank you, but wow, like Jesus.
Mm.
I was like, I still would have liked. And he was like, I know, but you wouldn't have been able to handle it.
Yeah.
It would have took you out. It would have took you clean out. And I was like, okay, well, thank you, but
Mhm.
geez,
And not
that's
and that's the ebbs and flows, the ups and downs, the ins and outs, the questioning, the bargaining.
oh my gosh.
Wow. About grief, because there's levels to it. Sometimes
Right.
you're angry, you're depressed, you're bargaining, you accept it. You just go through all these ebbs and flows, and yet you still question why,
Right.
how, when. Like, did it have to be that person? Like, I
Right.
knew somebody like had to be sacrificed, but that one, like that,
Right. You
you
had to
know how
be
you
there?
pray. You, you know how people pray like, God, all right, I'm moving in this new place in my life. It's 2023, new friends, new family. I'm ready to do something big. Whoever's not supposed to be in my life, Lord, remove them. And then when he started moving those close people, he be like, no, not that one. No,
That's not what I
that's not.
said.
Ayana, that's not the one I asked you for.
God,
God's like,
that's not what we talked about.
that's not what we discussed. That's
Right.
not what we discussed.
And so, like, the reason why I wanted to make sure that we had this conversation, specifically you and I, is because for the podcast itself and just for the Soul Care Success Series, January, we focus on mindset, because you really do have to. I talk about mindset like GPS. You have to set the direction of where your thoughts are going to be for healing before you can heal. Right. You have to decide that this is where I'm going. Right. If you know that you want to get to the mall, you put your coordinates from where you are to where the mall is, and you ask for directions. You set the direction of where you'd like to go. And part of entering this journey of soul care, excuse me, is being able to grieve. And so because you and I had such a powerful conversation, I know that I know what you teach, but I know what you preach.
Mm.
If that right. And so I just felt it appropriate that we actually tackle this, because I really do want women to know that it's a thing. It's a thing.
Yeah.
So my next question for you is, what has been the biggest challenge, hurdle, or healing step in your healing journey, as it relates to um, things that you've had to grieve, things that you've had to process through, um, connecting to just healing your soul and healing Ashlin?
Yeah. So let me give you guys a little brief about what my grieving process was. And me and Ayana connected. Um, she lost her parents. I lost my brother. February 2021, in the middle of COVID, I lost my brother to leukemia with an onset of COVID, which totally wiped away his immune system. And at that time, we were going through the whole processing, the logistics of planning a homegoing service, date, time, how many people, flowers, the whole logistics. And then we get to the money situation. And we're like, do we have enough life insurance money? Like, how many beneficiaries do we have? How much is this going to cost? Like, can
Mhm.
we even have a homegoing service, or do we need to have a cremation? Like it was
Right.
those types of conversation. I left out of that planning meeting distraught, angry, feeling like 50 pounds of weight was on my shoulders and my feet was dragging through the mud and my eyes were filled up with tears because I felt like I could not honor my brother because we had limited resources at that time and I didn't know how we were going to manage, how we were
Right.
going to take care of that. In that place was when I really had to take a reflection at myself, at my relationship with my money, the
Mm-hmm.
relationship with my finances, the relationship I even had with myself to even be in that place to serve him, to
Right.
serve my brother, to honor him, to honor his name, to honor my mother and his father. How can I do this when I felt like I could not afford to grieve? Literally.
Right.
That's what I couldn't afford. Like we couldn't even do it. And it took a really, really hard impact on me because this is what I do. Like this
Right.
is what I teach. I was angry with my parents when I teaching me about budgeting, savings, money, life insurance, and I was
That's
angry
right.
with my brother for not telling me how sick he was,
Mm-hmm.
for not telling me where the life insurance policies were, for not
Right.
telling me who were the beneficiaries, for not telling me that he didn't have enough. I was angry.
Mm-hmm.
I was angry. So I went into a state of depression.
Yeah.
No phone, no music, um, no eating as much as my regular routine of eating, missing deadlines at work, no telephone calls, like all of that stuff was affecting me.
Yeah.
I tried to bargain with God. God, if you bring my brother back, I promise I'll go to church every Sunday. God, if you bring my brother back, I promise I'll do everything that you asked me to do. I promise I'll speak to whoever you need me to speak to. I promise I'll travel wherever you need me to go. If you just bring him back, I promise I will do everything you asked me to do.
Right.
But you're supposed to do that anyway.
Ma'am.
You're supposed to go to church anyway. You're supposed to give your offering and your tithes anyway. You're supposed to speak to whoever is in your path anyway. You're supposed to be generous and honor and serve people anyway.
Right.
No, that don't make no sense, and no, that didn't fly. And guess what? He made me sit in that thing. God said you're supposed to do that anyway.
Right.
I said,
You
ooh,
see, won't he convict you? You see what I'm saying? Because if he had sent the Holy Spirit would have been something like, in my mind, like, come on, sis, you got to get up. You can't stay in this place like this. You know what I'm saying? Jesus would have been like, all right, enough is enough. Like, we got to get moving, one foot in front of the other. All right, are we
yeah,
ready? You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? And God is like, we're supposed to do that anyway, y'all.
yeah.
Like,
That
don't
ain't
throw
not new. What you
no,
mean? You ain't bargaining with me?
I get she going through life is lifing, but she was supposed to do that anyway.
Yeah.
Like anyway, right?
Anyway.
But I think what's so good about what you're sharing, and it's layered. So I want to like quickly unlayer some of the
Mhm.
things that you said because we'll miss it as part of the process, right? So
Yeah.
we have an event that happens, a loss, right?
Mhm.
You lose your brother.
Mhm.
And then in the planning stages of wanting to honor your brother, you
Mhm.
recognize that there are not enough funds to be able to properly honor him in the way that you desire to honor him, right?
Yeah.
So we have an event. The event is a loss, a deficit to us.
Mhm.
Now we're trying to plan to sort of add to it to not make it so, heavy on us in the way
Mhm.
in which we honor the person. And then we realize we can't do it. That's the compounded loss
Yeah.
because
That's the
now
second.
you recognize you can't do the things that you desire to do. So
Yeah.
now this person is gone, and now you feel even worse about yourself because now you can't do the things that you said that you would do. I want to
Yeah.
unpack this in the layers,
Yeah.
right? You're now dealing with the loss of a person, right? We got to grieve the person. Now we're having an event in which we cannot. So now we have to like grieve the fact that we can't do the things that we said that we were going to do in the way that we were going to honor the person, right?
Mhm.
Now we're recognizing, here comes layer number 3. We're recognizing that we didn't even know how to do these things from the jump. Right? So now we have this parental piece that comes in where now we're dealing with, so the loss has turned into shame. The shame
Mhm.
is now turning into anger,
Yep.
right? And now the
Yep.
anger Layer number 4 is turning into depression, because
Yeah.
depression is when we start to shut down, right? We now have so many things. So my husband defines overwhelm as when we have so many problems coming at us and not enough solutions coming from us. So we
Mm,
can't solve a lot of the things that are coming to us. We have,
mhm.
it feels like a wave of just emotions that we can't fully process. We have
Yeah.
waves of problems and challenges that we can't quite solve. We have financial stress and strain that we can't relieve or alleviate because we
Mhm.
don't have the financial means. And then we
Yeah.
recognize that we had never been trained properly to even handle
No.
like life insurance policies, who to call, what to say, like what to
No.
request. And we don't have anything in our bank account that can fully cover
No.
any of these resources that are needed. And so when we had planned, something to, we pictured something to happen one way in our head, we now
Mhm.
have to maybe consider a different way. We may have to switch from a burial to a cremation, which is not what we originally planned. And so
No.
you also have to grieve that, right?
Yes.
Because now you have to change plans. Every time you have to make an adjustment or a pivot, there is a grief process that happens, whether you recognize it or not, because you
Yeah.
have to accept what you cannot do. You have to
Yeah.
accept that there is a level of loss that's happening. But what it did was it did propel you into the financial literacy, the financial consulting of making sure that people understood the things that you didn't know,
Yeah.
growing up, so that if these circumstances hit them again, that they would be better prepared,
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
like for my mom and my dad, they were two totally different types of burials, two
Mm.
totally different types. We didn't have a GoFundMe for my dad or my mom, really. Me and my siblings, we ended up being able to come together, but we still, like, there's still outstanding things that we need to still
Yeah.
tighten up. And he passed away in November of 2019, right?
Mm.
And we're
Yeah.
still trying to finalize some details with his burial, his plot, his all of
Yeah.
that stuff that
Yeah.
comes into it, right? And I was just talking to my husband the other day, or yesterday actually, and I was saying, the average funeral, just the funeral, we're not talking about the headstone, just the funeral itself.
Yeah.
Like every time they have to transport the body, that costs money, from the
Yep.
hospital to the funeral home, the funeral
Yep.
home to the church to the every single
Yep.
time that body has to enter that the vehicle,
Mhm.
you're paying a fee
Yes.
every single time. And
Yes.
then you have to, pick the site, you have to pay for the plot, you have to pay
Yep.
for the service, you have to pay
Yep.
for all these things. And
Yep.
then, we have the repast. So we got to get the food, we got to do all the things, right? Do all the things. And I said, by the time, my dad he was part of the Freemasons. And when you're a Freemason and you pass away, it's like the military. They kind of cover the location for the funeral service. So you don't
Okay.
have to pay for that. It's usually at like a Mason's hall. So that was a small saving grace. Then
Nice.
all his brothers and sisters that were, because he made it to being one of the heads of the chapter, and you serve, I think, for a period of a year where you're the Grand Master. And so when you get to sort of that level, the brothers and sisters of the lodge get together and they cook and do the
Mm.
repast on your
Mm.
behalf. That was another saving grace. And then, we take care of all the other
Yeah.
expenses, right? We
Yeah.
just don't have to pay for a hall or a church or anything like that. And we still struggle.
Mhm.
We still struggle.
Yeah.
And I was
Yeah.
telling my husband, I said the average cost of just a burial funeral is about 15,000 average.
Yep.
And that's almost like you're getting the bare bone minimum
Yeah.
average.
That's at the lowest cost.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's like the casket and all that stuff that you're picking
Yep.
out, right? And then when you get to cremation, so my mother she chose to be cremated. She didn't want to
Okay.
be buried in the ground. And so we're talking about almost 3 times less than my
Yes.
dad. 3 times,
Yes.
three
Yes.
times less, under 5,000
Yeah.
for her, to have it in the funeral home. Of course, this is, mid pandemic. So you can only have a certain number of people
X
in
amount
the
of
funeral
people.
home,
Yeah.
right? But still setting up everything, the memorial service, all of the
Mhm.
things. And 3 times less, and still trying to get the repast together, all the things, and recognizing I don't want my kids to have to do this. What my mom did was so sweet, though. She had everything in like a file box,
Mm-hmm.
and she had all of her passwords to every single thing.
Mm.
And then she had all of her policies listed. And I was like, bet, as soon as I kind of get through the grief, I'm going to set all of this up like this for my kids. And I'm going to
Yeah.
make sure that they know all the policies, policy numbers, who to call, who to contact first,
Yeah.
call them in this order, right?
Yeah.
Say these things. And then
Yeah.
also setting up the pay on death benefit for all of my accounts so that they don't have to go through what we went through. I had to go to the courts, get like, control of her estate to
Yeah.
be able to
Yeah.
manage her bank accounts and get
Yep.
access and
Yep.
do all the things, take control of her cars and, stuff like that.
It's a lot.
And I was like, I promise you, I'm setting it all up so that it just transfers, it just automatically transfers to whomever I needed to transfer to.
Right.
Right. And then like they're listed as the pay on death benefit. So any of them can go into the bank
And get
and get the money out of the bank. No questions
good.
asked. I've already listed, you know what I'm saying? Like it's all those
Yeah.
different things that come into place as a result of
Yeah.
one loss.
And that's the stuff. And I was angry in that place, but at the same time, my parents didn't know because they weren't taught that. So if they weren't taught, how can they teach me something? Throughout this whole well, I will say that we did have a regular service for my brother. Nonetheless, we had some family that helped us out. So we did have a whole regular service. But the biggest challenge throughout that whole process, Ayana, was giving myself, teaching myself, allowing myself, giving myself permission
Yes.
to cry, to be angry, to laugh, to be frustrated, to be depressed, to be annoyed. Literally giving myself permission to sit in this place
Yeah.
and cry. Because Ash got all the answers. She's a social worker. She can process all of this and she can process all of that. She knows what she's doing. She the financial consultant. No. No. Mm-mm.
Right.
So that was the biggest challenge, to answer your question. The biggest challenge for me through my healing journey was giving myself permission, learning how to give myself permission to actually sit in a posture and allow myself to grieve, where I could take off the mask. I can take off the facade. I don't have to
Yeah.
suppress my feelings and my emotions and be vulnerable and say, here I am. And just
Right. That part. And that answers another question too that I like to ask, which is one concept you would want women to lean into as part of their healing from, past emotional trauma. And in this case, also dealing with, a loss of a loved one is just what you said. It's just what you said, signing that permission slip to be able to just be present in the
Yep.
moment. I
Yep.
call it empathetic togetherness. That's one of my core values for my coaching program. And it
Mm,
means that I will come alongside you as you are, where you are. You don't
mm,
have to be the expert. You don't have to be the CEO. You don't have to be the one that knows it all. You can just be free to cry. And I mean,
yeah.
do the ugly cry, like do the ugly cry, like not
It's
hanging.
not like,
You know what
it's not
I'm saying?
cry.
You know what I'm saying?
Can't breathe,
That
gotta
cry,
cry.
you know what I'm saying? That cry, get that one out. Because I
Yay.
promise you, the more that you, and I touch on this quite a bit as I'm learning and more and more and more about how emotional energy is stored in the body. The
Mm,
more that you are able to release through the tears, the more that you're able to be angry and scream and yell and get that
yeah.
out, not at people. Let me
Right.
put that caveat in there. It's not a permission slip to be rude. It's not a permission slip to be nasty, to be mean,
Yeah.
to be critical and judgmental of other people because you're in a space. But if you need to get into a room by yourself and actually scream, and yeah, man, me and God have had some colorful conversations. We've had some
Colorful. I
colorful
like that one.
conversations. That's why I said, like, he knows who his daughter is. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can
Yeah.
go tell God about me, but I promise you, he knows who I am. He knows the
Ooh.
good, the bad, the ugly, and the
Yeah.
ugliest parts of who I am. So when I
Yes.
gave it to him and I was like, this is some bush. And I was like, and when I say colorful, it was good and colorful. And you know
Yeah.
what his response was? Finally. That's what he
Yes.
said. He said, finally. I've been
Yes.
waiting for you to give that to me so that I can
Yes.
do something about it. And here's the
Yes.
thing, the things that you're not willing to give God, He can do nothing about. Even though He's all powerful, He is not a God that will force His will on you. He has
Mm,
given you the power of free choice and
yeah.
of your own will to make whatever decisions
Yeah.
that you desire to make.
Yeah. Literally free will and literally giving myself permission to say, I'm going to release this, God. You can handle this. That was the biggest thing because I'm a control freak. I like things to be in place how I want it, when I want it to do. I want to cook this food. I want to eat. Like, I want it to be my way. God was like, not today, it won't. I literally had to learn how to release that thing.
Right.
In the concept I want to other women to grasp is give yourself permission.
Mm.
Literally learn your likes, learn your dislikes. Like literally learn who you are. What food you like to eat, the snacks you like, what's the favorite nail polish that you like going to, what movie you want to watch, what's your favorite pajama, like literally learn who you are and give yourself
Right.
permission to be in that space.
Right.
That is what I will advise, encourage, support any woman to lean into.
Listen, so you touched on a question that I have not asked yet on this podcast. And I'm so glad that you brought it up that way because I think there is, for me, there's a fundamental difference between self love and self like.
Mm,
So I think self like is a lot of what you just touched on, finding out the things about you, right?
yeah.
So before I kind of share a little bit more about that, I want to ask you how you perceive the difference between self love and self like, and what that looks like for you, or if they're one and the same for you, and the way that you define it, and the way that it, you experience it for yourself. What does it look like stepping into, or what do you think the difference is, if there is one, uh,
Mhm.
for you?
Yeah. So there is a difference. I believe there is a difference between self love and self like. Now, I believe self like is more so the learning phases of you,
Hmm.
learning what you like, learning the dislikes. I think it's more on the like the surface level, learning what lipstick look good on you. What's my favorite glasses? What's my favorite tennis shoe? The brand that looks best on me. The materialistic things. Learning how to accept who I am, where I am. Other people accept. Literally, it's just like learning what I like, what I don't like. I prefer peanut M&Ms over regular chocolate M&Ms. I prefer Skittles over Starburst. Like just the learning phase of who you are. It's just the surface level, I believe.
Right.
And compared to self-love, that's the inner phases of me. That's the
Hmm.
hidden places of me. That's the internal work. That's the places where I have to dig deep inside. That's accepting my flaws, um, good, bad, or indifferent. That's the beauty within. That's knowing that I got a little roll on my stomach and I still like my roll because I still look good in these jeans. Like
Okay.
that's literally knowing, like loving me for who I am internally, but standing flat footed and firm, 10 toes down, me inside and out, accepting every part of me.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
good, sis.
Yeah.
That's good.
And I think they're both good. I think
Yeah,
we all go through
yeah.
a phase of self-like because that's the learning phases of who I am. Think about when you go from childhood to adolescence, like your body changes so much and you go through
Right.
different emotions and thoughts and feelings. You have to learn how to like yourself because I look different. I feel
Yeah.
different. I smell different. Like
Right. You see what I'm
it's a lot
saying?
of it's a lot of
All the
changes
things.
going on.
All
And you
the things.
had to learn this phase of adolescence and young adulthood and say, you know what, I like this thing called teenage. I like this thing called
Yeah.
adolescence. Like, okay, my mom gonna give me a little bit more freedom. I can stay out a little later. I can go skating. I can go bowling. I kind of like this thing. Okay. It's just a learning phase of who you are. And
Right.
self-love is that get down and dirty in the nitty-gritty, said, flaws and all. I love it.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, I totally, totally, totally agree
Yeah.
with both of them, with both of the way
Yeah.
that you described the self-love and the self-like, right? And so
Hmm.
the self-like is just that, like accepting who you are, accepting how you look, accepting what you like, accepting what your
Yeah.
preferences are,
Yeah.
learning those things and being like, no, I don't want to go to, like, I'm not a fan of Chick-fil-A. And my kids usually like, what? And I'm like, yeah, I love their customer service. I love what they stand for. I love what they
Yes.
represent. I'm not a fan of
Yes.
the food, and it's like, it's no shade. It's just, I just, it's not my cup of tea, period.
Yeah.
And, I'll take you there and do all those things. But knowing this about myself allows me to not conform. So here's what self like does: when you like yourself, you don't
Hmm.
conform to what other people want you to do for them, or you
Mm,
don't conform to what other people desire so that you can be liked, validated, or accepted. You can stand flat footed on the truth of what you like and what you don't like and be okay
mm.
with it. And be okay with it.
I like that.
Like I don't have to people please. But we can
Yeah.
go. Like, but I don't have to get something because
Right.
I'm there. I can
Right.
sit with you at Chick-fil-A. You can eat a whole meal and I will get something to drink and call it a day.
And
I'm
that's
good with that.
something that we do so often. We
Mhm.
conform, we bend, and all right, we're gonna go to Chick-fil-A. All right, I guess I'll get some waffle fries, even though I
Right.
really all right. I mean, and sit there and force yourself to eat some food that you don't like and make yourself
What you
sick.
don't want. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then get annoyed. And then that's how
Mhm.
things start to seep into relationships. Because
Yeah.
now you're like, we always go to Chick-fil-A. We don't never. And so you won't speak up because you don't want to damage the relationship because
Yeah.
you've built the relationship and it's predicated on you always doing what that person desires. Versus as
Yeah.
you saying, I don't really like Chick-fil-A. Can we go, to another spot? Or do you
Hmm.
mind if we go to Chick-fil-A and then go to another? Like
Right.
you don't advocate for yourself, right?
Right.
And that leads it to self-love, right? And so self-love, like I'm reading this book. It's a Joyce Mayer book, and it's called what's it called? Because I have it down here. Loving People Who Are Hard to Love. And so I had got this book because my coach had talked about someone saying something to her to that effect, that she was hard to love or something to that effect. And it just always, like, it stayed with me. And I was like, are people hard to love? And then I was in Walmart and saw this book and I was like, bet I'm reading it because I want to know more about it. And um the way that she talks about love in general from the biblical perspective
Yeah.
completely reshaped the way that I see self-love from the
Mhm.
biblical perspective, right? And
Okay.
so it's really asking those questions like, are you patient with yourself? Are you kind? Like really taking First Corinthians 13 um 4 and then really unpacking that. Are you patient? Are you kind?
Mm,
Are you envying of others? Are
mm,
you boasting?
mm,
Are you acting proud or prideful? Right? And if I'm operating in, this boast or the envious or, am I dishonoring others? Am I always trying to seek for myself
mhm,
because I believe nobody else is going to truly love me, so I have to always look out for myself. And it's
mhm.
not from a place of like I just desire to have certain things in my life. It's like, nah, I'm going for mine. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? I'm going to do me.
Yep.
And it's
Yep.
just like it comes from a
Yep.
place that's hurt. It comes from a place of pain, sis. Like that's not really you loving yourself. You
Mm,
loving yourself looks like you can be gentle with yourself. You can be patient and understanding with yourself. You can grace yourself. That you're not comparing yourself or competing with other people. That you will trust God for all the things.
yeah.
That, like
Yeah.
you said, from the inner peace, your
Yeah.
soul
Yep.
is operating from a place of rest because
Yeah.
it's not working overtime just for you to feel loved and you're not trying to seek love elsewhere because you can't provide it for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so when we're operating in the self-love and the self-like, you that peace that people everybody's saying like I'm just trying to protect my peace. I, I promise you, your peace don't need protecting when it's the right kind of peace.
Yeah. And also, I believe self love, what you just mentioned, which made me
Mm-hmm.
think, is also giving yourself the space to have autonomy, like to make decisions. And it's okay to say, hey, like you said, I don't like Chick-fil-A, but I would like to go to Burger King.
You know what I'm
Like
saying?
really having that conversation, giving yourself that space to have those tough conversations. I think that's self-love too. And it's not even what you say, it's how you speak to yourself. What do you say? And how do I say it? How do I affirm who I am? How do I confirm who I am and why I am in this place? How am I speaking love, liberty, joy, peace, prosperity, abundance into me?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good. That's
Hmm.
good.
Yep.
So after all of this, right, you've gone through, the loss. You are now, on the almost, I won't say on the other side, because grief is a journey that ebbs and flows and it comes
Yep.
in waves and you never know when it's going to hit,
Hmm.
because it doesn't just go away. But now that you have been sort of in the thick of the journey, what would you say has been sort of the biggest reward as part of your healing journey, as part of your soul care work, as part of your grieving work? Um, I see the fruit that it bore as a result with the financial literacy consulting and giving it greater context, and why it's important that we really become financially knowledgeable about what we need in life to better prepare us for any type of outcomes that may happen, right? And just being aware of what's available to us. So what would you say has been the biggest reward as part of your healing journey?
My biggest reward is teaching people, relating to people, talking to people, knowing that you are not alone. Because at one point in time, I felt like I was by myself. Like there's no one else that has ever gone through this ever in life. I don't want to ever talk about this. My biggest reward is telling people that you are worthy, that you are valuable, that you are deserving, and you are worth the investment. Being intentional with my words and sharing and creating a space and letting people know that you can rewrite your story. I think that's the aha moment that most people forget. Like you can rewrite your journey. You can rewrite your story. That
Mhm.
you can speak life back into you and you don't have to settle in this place. You don't have to sit stagnant in this place. Being intentional and showing my community, showing my friends, showing my family that I can be vulnerable and I can feel and we can have the conversation.
Right.
So the biggest thing is knowing that I am worthy of changing my story and it doesn't have to be the same as when it was.
Listen, say that again. Say that one more time for the people in the back of the podcast. Yeah, one more time.
The biggest reward is telling myself, knowing that I am worthy and I am worth the investment, that I am valuable and I am deserving. I can change my story. I can rewrite the trajectory of my story. You can rewrite it
You see?
because you're worth it. You're worth the investment, whatever it is: time, money, energy, friendship, relationship, that class you want to take, going back to school, whatever it is. I'm worth it. I'm worthy.
You
Yeah.
listen. Listen,
Listen,
listen.
listen.
Right. I always feel that meme always tickles me. I don't know what I just unlocked. Okay. Because hearing that
Listen.
piece about being worthy, like, and just knowing that you are worth the investment, that you are worth your healing, that
Mhm,
you are worth the
mhm,
journey that you've been through, like
mhm.
even the trauma that you've experienced is not in vain. It's
No,
not for naught. We think
no,
sometimes like this happened to me and now I'm damaged goods and now I can't do the thing that I thought I could do. And I promise you, and it's hard, this is a hard truth, that what you experienced will qualify you and equip you to talk about the very thing that God wants you to deal with.
Let me tell you, that's really quickly. That's why I do the work that I do. So I'm a licensed social worker and I'm a financial consultant. So I take how your past perspectives, traumas, beliefs, and attitudes about money and how that influences your current spending habits. We don't think about how our past, how the
Right,
things we've seen, the things we've gone through, the things we've experienced, how that influences currently where we are now.
right,
People don't relate the two, but I want you to know that that qualifies you 10 times more to talk about that challenge, to talk about that issue, to talk about that concern, because I've been through it and I have real life experience
right,
that they are related. It does not disqualify you. If anything, it makes you more qualified for the position. In
right.
my eyes,
You
it makes
see?
you more qualified for the position. So no, it doesn't discredit you. It doesn't knock you out of the running. You are there, 10 toes down. You are
Like,
there.
all the time. All
Yeah.
day, every day, twice on Sunday. Okay?
Yeah.
All the
You
time.
are there. Yes.
You see what I'm
Absolutely.
saying? You are worthy 100% of the time. And then I like
Mhm.
to say you've survived 100% of your worst days because you're still here.
Hello. You
You
still
survived
here every
100%.
day.
Like your track record for surviving the worst days is 100%,
It's a
sis.
100%.
I'm just saying.
It's a
Just
100%.
take note of that. Take
What?
note of that.
Ayana, that's good.
If you don't take no notes, take that note.
That is 100%. Your track record on winning,
Do you see what I'm saying?
girl.
100%. 100%. So, sis,
Mm.
this conversation has been good and good. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Good and good.
Yes.
Like, we touched on quite a bit, quite a bit. And I hope you all were able to take away some amazing tips, things that you can implement as part of your self care strategy, things that you can implement as part of your soul care strategy.
Mhm.
Being reminded that you are worthy and you are worth it, that you are enough as you
Mhm.
are where you are in your
Mhm.
journey. And there might be some people, places, and pain that you may need to grieve, because in the grief, you'll find more connectedness to your
Yeah.
purpose, your calling, and you're
Yeah.
always going to be qualified and equipped no matter what along the way, because that's God's plan for you and plan for your life. So,
Yeah.
sis, I want you to tell folks, about your products, about your services, where they can find you. I'm going to go ahead and put your IG and your website here on the screen so that they can
Yeah.
get connected with you and follow you. Please be sure, because she is unleashing the series. Like, the book is out. Like, I'm gonna let you tell it, but you know what I'm saying? Like the Kanye said, I'm gonna let you finish. But sis is out here doing big things, big, big, big things. So yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. Let people know.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So listen, everyone, I am here for you. And if you leave with nothing today, the four principles that I stand on, that I live by, that I speak life into every day, and you'll hear me when I go on social media, even in my book, and I'll share that with you. Four values is that I am worthy, I am valuable, I am deserving, and I am worth the investment. I'm worth it. No matter what I've gone through, no matter the ins and outs, the ups and downs, I am worth the investment, which is what triggered me, which pushed me into writing my first book. My first book is called Affirming My Value, which is what, 31 days. It's called Affirming My Value, which is 31 days of financial affirmations and elevations, because I was so struck. I was so depressed. I was so down with my finances. I feel like I had to pick myself back up. And what I did to do that is I wrote affirmations. I wrote in my journal. I listened to Christian meditation. I'm a writer anyway, so I had tons and tons of stuff. And I literally compiled it and I put it into a book. So these are my personal like affirmations that I wrote in this book. And it's called Affirming My Value, to let you know that you can speak life, liberty, joy, peace, abundance back into you every day. 31 days of financial affirmation when you can speak life into your finances, where you can rewrite your story every day. And guess what? At the book, in the back of the book, is called, what does it say? My permission slip. Literally giving yourself permission to be great, to be awesome, to be amazing. So, you guys, the book is available. The book is available. You can go to my website, which is themoneysocialworker.com, and you can find out the book, everything I have coming up. Follow me on Instagram at the Money Social Worker. Even on Facebook, it's just my name, Ashlin Price. And I am here to help support. I'm actually also have tangible resources. Like I do financial consulting, so we can help with credit restoration, with budgeting, with savings, and even with helping you get a will, trust, and a power of attorney, because that's something we did not have. And I wish that I did. I wish that my family did have it. But I now have one. So I can help you get will and trust and the power of attorney. So that's all things about me. The book is available. It's called Affirming My Value, 31 Days, Financial Elevations and Affirmations, Speaking Life into Your Finances. Follow me on Instagram at The Money Social Worker, and my website is themoneysocialworker.com.
Sis, thank you so much. Listen, this will not be the last time that you hear from Ashlin. I want to make sure that you guys tune in on February 8th. February 8th is when she'll be back for the Soul Care Success Series, where she's going to be specifically teaching on these topics related to financial health.
Yes.
And making sure that you become financially healthy, and what are some tips, tools, and techniques that you can use to put into place for your own life. And of course, we will let you know. We're not going to let you forget. Okay. We won't remind you that you need to come back. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Come back. You know what I'm saying? In a couple of weeks, to make sure that you tune in. And there may be freebies, there may be giveaways. You never know, but you absolutely have to tune in. And so you want to register for the series. It is at bit.ly/soul care success. Soul Care Success. So that way you can get all the teachings, all the goodies, all the gems, all the notes, right? So that you can have a more prosperous and abundant life, that you can manage the financial status of your life, and that you are equipped with the education, the tools that you need, the resources where you can go to be able to create and design a life that not only leaves a legacy for other people, but that you can also enjoy while you're still alive as well. And so, Ashlin, I thank you so very much for joining me today. This conversation has been great. Great. I can only imagine what it's going to be like for the Soul Care Success Series.
Yes.
I'm excited. You guys make sure that you register for it. And you know what? As they say, that's it. And that's all, y'all. Like, this has been another episode of the Warrior Woman podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm so glad that you were here. Be sure to tune in next week for the next edition of the podcast. Until then, take care, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in.